Alright, so let's finish off this document. And while we're doing this, we're also going to explicitly talk about the layers panel. We've kind of dodged around and talked about it, but I kind of wanted a lot of different information on the page before I went ahead and talked about this, because it kind of loses its meaning if you only have one layer in here. So I want to have multiple layers so that we can kind of really talk about some of the aspects you can do in there, how you might organize it, and how you might set it up so that it'll help you out in the future. So the first thing I want to do, I just want to add some pictures in here because we just have a bunch of empty text frames. So what I need to do is I need to select these text frames that are behind here so that I can actually, control them and put my own picture in there. And you'll notice that the exact same thing happens as happened earlier in the tutorials, is I can only select the text box here. So we can go up to the layers panel, we can find that text box, and we can go ahead and lock it like so I can select behind here. And now once I have that open, I can go into File, and then I can go into Place. And if we go into Pictures tab here, we have 4 pictures that I took while I was in Italy. And so let's just go with the Bologna city street here. And you'll notice that it basically, the picture is gigantic as normal. So what we're going to do is we're going to right click, we're going to go Fitting, and we're going to fit the content to the frame like so. And you'll see that it's a little bit squished, so we can go ahead and let's hold that Control key. Let's bring it down so it looks back to sort of normal how it was taken, and we'll drag it down like so. And there, now that's looking pretty good right there. And so let's move into the next one here. We have to do the same thing. We need to lock that middle one, which is right there, that one right there. And then let's Control Shift click this to bring it back. File, Place. Let's go with the second one here. We're gonna fit content to frame like so, and then this one's going to need a little bit of shrinking as well. We're just trying to preserve the aspect ratio because it was basically a 16 by 9. So if it's a square, it's going to stretch it. And maybe we can put this one up here, and maybe if we want to change the text wrap on this one, we'll do it like that so it's in the center of the document. That's looking pretty good. And then now we got one over here, which we need to, again, this is going to be a common thing, is we're going to need to keep changing, locking these documents. And you have to do this basically a lot of the time, is lock the foreground element so that you can get to the background element. So File, Place, and then let's go into, the third one right there. Keep doing the exact same thing down the line. And once you kind of get your content all set up, it does become just a little bit tedious, because that's sort of how this, we've gotten all the major things down, but now all we're doing is just sort of touching it up a tad and adding in our final elements. You see how easy this is. We've set up the whole document, so all we have to do is really just click on these boxes and just input our frame. So instead, let's try something else. I just want to show you a different way. Instead of hiding this to select this, what we can actually do is go up into the Layers tab right here, and you see how this is the rectangle. If we hide that, it goes like that. We can directly select it over here, and now it's actually selected for us to place it. So it's a different way that you can do it. You can get to the back. If it's the dotted line like this, it's not actually in our Layer tab until we Control Shift click it. So there's no way we can actually touch this until we actually lock the foreground element and then Control Shift click it. But if you've already done that, you can just select, once you get to the page, you can select it directly by just clicking on the little buttons to the right, and whatever's highlighted is currently selected. You could select the entire layer by doing the same thing, but we're going to just select the rectangle here. We're going to hit File and do the exact same thing. Place our last picture like so, and we're going to go with Fitting, and we want to fit content to frame, and then we want to bring this up a tad like so. And there we go. Now we've got these pictures that are looking pretty good. We can, of course, adjust just little aspects of the pictures. So if we go in here, we can go to Bologna picture, go to the text wrap like we did earlier. Let's say we wanted just a little bit more room on the top like so. Give it a little bit more room like that. And I don't want this last one here, so we're going to go up to the Layers tab, and let's find this center one. And these names are usually a little bit better because they'll actually have text that you can figure out. But you'll see that at the beginning here. It says, the Fujiat. And that's right there. So that's kind of a quicker way to find these. But I like to just go down and turn them off and on. Usually that works for me. And I don't actually want this last rectangle here. So we're going to delete that, bring this back. And now we've added our pictures into our document. And it's looking pretty good so far. Looking sort of like a periodical, but I like the look of this. It actually looks pretty clean, pretty simple. And so now let's go over the layers tab. Like I said earlier, I kind of wanted to have a bunch of different aspects on here so that the layers tab made more sense and you can sort of see the organizational features that it'll give us. So what the layers tab does is it's going to provide us with every single object on the page. And the page part of that is important. For example, if I click on the first page, you'll see it says page 1, layer 1. Now if I go to the second page, the page 2, one layer with layer 1 right there. And you'll see that when I click on every one of these, the layers change. And that's because layers are independent of the page. So let's click on the first one really quickly. And you'll see that we have a bunch of different sort of layers here. They are added automatically whenever you add text boxes. But I like to take these and organize them a little bit. So I'm going to go down to the bottom right. I'm going to create myself a new layer up here. And just a really basic way of organizing it is just to put one of them as text and put the other one as images. And now if we take these, we can drag them back and forth. So let's take our images. We want the images to actually be on the top here. And we want the text to be on the bottom. And I'll explain that in a second. So you can see that this is bolognastreet.jpg. So that's our image. That's probably the only one we want to stay in here. So we're going to take the rest of these. And you can click on the top, hold shift down to the bottom, and then click on this one, and it'll select all of them. Or you can select one and hit control, control, control. Hold down the control to keep clicking all of them. Or you can just drag them all one by one. Drag them down to here, and you'll notice all the text boxes change and all the hidden characters change color, and that's just because that is the new layer color here, which is the red. And so now we have just the blue of the image and then the red text boxes. But the reason that we put the images on the top is because whichever one is on the top is going to be the one that's on the top towards us. So imagine that there's a Z direction, or that there's any sort of direction going into the monitor and coming out at us. Whenever we put something on the top here, it's being put towards us. So it's being put on the top. Like if we had an actual piece of paper here and we're actually had all these things that we're, pasting onto here, the images now are on top of the rest. So now when I hover over these, if I hover over the image, it's going to select the image first before the text box. And we want that because the image is something that we want to maybe change in the future. We don't want the text box to be over the image. Otherwise, every time we want to select the text box, we'll actually have to go in, find it, hide it, and then select it. So for example, right now you can see I have the image on top of the text. So if I click it, I can just click the image right away. However, if I do the opposite, and I bring the text on top of the image, you'll notice that I can't click inside to get to the image because this text box is technically over it. Even the invisible part is over the image. So we want to organize our layers in a way that'll help us animate and control all the aspects really, really simply. So if I go in here and I redo that, I brought the images back up. Now you'll see that it's really easy to select the image, and I can drag it anywhere that I want and have the effect that I want. I can get to it quickly and I can make edits quickly. So that's really where the power of the layers up here comes into play, is it allows you to not only organize your document so you can find assets really quickly, it allows you to organize the document so that you can grab and change those assets quickly. And we kind of want to also make sure that we name these correctly. So for example, right here, that's the leftmost right one. So let's find the left one. That's the middle one. And so now they're kind of organized. I just like to organize them kind of left to right is top to bottom here. But it doesn't really matter unless, again, these ones are going to be higher up than these ones on the select sort of chain. So you might need to organize them based on that. But now that we have them in this sort of organizational period, what we can do is we can click on one of these and we can rename it so that we can easily see it in the future. So let's double click on this one. And it's a little bit tricky sometimes, but there we go. And let's, remove this and let's just name this one left column. Like so, and then double click on this one, and there it is. Like I said, it's for some reason a little bit tricky to select these properly. I don't know why, but sometimes you just got to keep clicking until you can get to it. And there we go, right column, and then let's go ahead and give this one a column, and let's go ahead and give this one a name like title. There we go. And then this right here is the page, and that's because way earlier in the tutorials, I Control-Shift-clicked this to show it to you. So it actually brought it in to our document. There's no real way to undo that, so we can just keep it as page for right now. And now you'll see that the first document is nicely organized. The first page here is organized so that we can find our text really quickly, we can find our images really quickly, and we can actually grab the images and move them around. And so what we want to do is we want to do the exact same thing for the other ones as well. But you'll notice that it actually created these layers. So these layers will move from document to document. So I have a text and I have an images layer. So these are like the overarching layers. However, the assets in each one of these pages are different. So it doesn't know how they're organized. So it throws them all in the original one, but it has the options right here so that when we get over here, it can actually be pretty simple to reorganize this, to take all the text like so, drag it down, and then we can, give new names. Got to unlock the layer first, move it down, and then now the images are easily selectable. So each one of these pages are going to have, the layers tab is going to be slightly different. However, they are also slightly the same. If we ever create a new layer, which this is a layer and these are like the assets in the layer. So if we ever create a new layer, what it's going to do is it's going to permeate that throughout the document. However, it doesn't know how each one of these assets are going to be organized. So it's going to throw them all in the original one. And then all we have to do is go inside of each one of these and reorganize them so that it works out. So that we can tell it which is the text, which are the images, and what order do we want them in. But that is the layers tab. Really important to understand. Like I said, I kind of wanted to get to this point where we had multiple assets on one single piece of paper. Before we jumped into this tab, a lot of people cover it really, really early, but I don't think that it really is that important until you start getting into these more complex documents, and then you kind of want to keep up with the organization. And so there you have it. We are done with our little mock document. Of course, we could style this up and touch it up a little bit, but we've sort of gotten all of the functional learning out of this that I really wanted to cover. Go ahead and hit W to see your final design right here, and you can notice that we have added a lot to this document since we started. We learned how to add page numbers, how to create styles, how to create internal styles, which are going to allow us to like highlight different words and just click a button and then link them all together. So if we wanted to change them, we've learned how to create links that'll link to itself and to external documents. We have learned how to thread text so that all we have to do is input the text once and it'll go from page to page to page. We have learned a lot of stuff. And so this is sort of the end of this document. However, we've learned a lot now to where we could almost create any document that we wanted. So in the future tutorials, what we're going to be going over is sort of how to keep building on this. This is really the foundation of InDesign. We have the tools now to create what we want. So now let's continue to expand on this and to continue to add sort of tools to that tool set so that in the future, whenever we have different sort of, challenges and, obstacles that come up, we'll understand a couple more tools in InDesign to be able to tackle those obstacles and to be able to do them as efficiently as possible and to keep the organization and the things like guides and stuff like that all nicely together so that it always looks nice in the end. Thank you for joining me for this series, and I can't wait to continue on InDesign.